What's not to love about Drax the Destroyer in the MCU? He's played by professional wrestler Dave Bautista, but his character isn't known for delivering devastating Bautista bombs. Instead, it's Drax's deadpan humor and ability to jump really high that has given him no shortage of fans. But if you've only seen the movies, you're missing out on a ton of insight about Drax, including the fact that he used to have a fabulous mustache. There's been many different versions of Drax in the comics, but one big cosmetic difference between the comic books and the movies is Drax's skin tone. In the comics, he's definitely green, but in the movies, he's a blend of blues, purples, and browns, which can look different depending on the lighting. Apparently, Marvel decided against making him green in the movies because Gamora and the Hulk were already green, and they wanted to mix things up a bit. In the movies, it's not exactly a secret that Drax isn't a fan of Thanos. Few people are, but his hatred for the Mad Titan reaches near Gamora levels of intensity, and she had to be raised by the guy. We all know Thanos was responsible for killing Drax's wife and daughter, but in the comics, his intense feelings towards Thanos are explained even further. We're sure you remember when we said Drax used to have a mustache, and probably haven't been able to get the mental image out of your head. Not only did he have facial hair, he actually used to be a regular old human being. His name was Arthur Douglas, and he was a real estate agent who enjoyed playing the saxophone in his spare time. We know it's not quite Drax the Destroyer level of coolness, but he lived a happy life with his wife and child. One day, the Douglas family was driving along minding their own business when they had the bad luck of running into Thanos. He was on a scouting mission to Earth and didn't want word of his visit getting out, so he decided to murder everyone in the car just to be safe. This guy really hates loose ends. In the MCU, Drax was the only survivor of Thanos' attack, but in the comics, he died too. He would have been gone forever if it wasn't for some celestial interference from none other than Thanos' father, Mentor. He had brought Thanos into the world, and now he wanted to take him out of it by working with Kronos to create a being capable of destroying him. The two of them wiped Arthur's memory, ditched his human body, and used his soul to power up a new body they'd put together. Drax the Destroyer was created with a single purpose in mind, and that was to kill Thanos. In the movies, we see that Drax is a strong, powerful, and capable fighter, but in the comics, he has a sort of Spider-Man-style spider sense, at least where Thanos is concerned. He can use his powers to track Thanos across the galaxy, instead of just relying on the trail of destruction like everybody else. In the MCU, Drax is a very literal guy, and despite his genuinely tragic backstory, is more often than not a comic relief character. But in the comic books, he's even more single-minded and isn't known for getting along with others. For one, he struggles to get along with his peers because all he cares about is finding Thanos and destroying him. His quest for Thanos makes J. Jonah Jameson seem like he couldn't even care less if he gets any photos of Spider-Man. In fact, there are times when Drax meets some heroes who could probably help him out on his quest, but he can't stop attacking everyone. In the comics, Drax does eventually manage to defeat Thanos by punching his heart through his chest, which is admittedly pretty badass. The downside of this is that it was during a time when Thanos was actually being nice and helpful and trying to save the galaxy from certain destruction. During Annihilation number 4, Galactus was under the control of the insidious Annihilus, and Thanos was trying to free him in order to save the entire galaxy. So during one of the few times Thanos was doing something good, he was brutally destroyed by Drax. Of course, this is a comic book, so Thanos didn't stay dead for too long, but during Infinity War, we saw Thanos wipe out half of all life in the universe with a single snap of his fingers. But back when he was first sniffing around the Earth, he couldn't even take out a car full of 3 average humans. Yeah, that's right. One other member of Drax's family is still alive in the comic books, and that is his daughter, Heather. When Thanos blew up her family's car, she was thrown clear and was later rescued by Thanos' own father on the planet Titan. While there, Heather was able to learn an incredible amount while studying with the Titanian Shaolin monks and unlocked her latent psychic potential. This left her with a ton of superpowers, but made her a target for the creature known as the Dragon of the Moon. After believing she had resisted the creature, she took on the name Moondragon to show off her victory. In the comics, Moondragon doesn't like Thanos any more than her father does. Not only did he kill her mother and try to kill her, but he also destroyed the monks she had grown up with on Titan. Her hatred of Thanos made her an ally for many Marvel characters, including the Avengers. But perhaps surprisingly, she's often not an ally to her own father. In her defense, Drax isn't exactly the man she grew up with, and she lived a whole new life while on Titan. In addition to dealing with her father, she's also worked with the Avengers and one of the incarnations of Captain Marvel. Sure, not the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel, but still a connection which could potentially make its way into the MCU at some point. Marvel Studios has done a lot of things right, but it's easy to see that they don't have the best track records when it comes to female characters. Maya Hansen was supposed to be the main villain of Iron Man 3, but apparently the corporate higher-ups at Marvel decided a female villain wouldn't sell, so the character got killed off. Of course, there's Black Widow, who, despite being an Avenger, rarely appears on any merchandise, and had to wait ages for a standalone movie to even be talked about. We had to wait until Thor Ragnarok to finally get a female villain in Hela, and Ant-Man and the Wasp was the first Marvel movie to give a female character equal billing to a male one. But with Captain Marvel, we have hope that things may finally be changing in the MCU. For years, they hid behind the excuse that the time wasn't right for female characters, but thankfully, it seems as though they're moving past it. When the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie first hit theaters in 2014, fans fell in love with this group of galactic misfits. Not only was the movie a huge success at the box office, but its soundtrack was one we just couldn't stop listening to. It seemed as though the franchise was an unstoppable force, and after the sequel, fans were eagerly awaiting the third installment. However, in the summer of 2018, we received some unfortunate news about the future of the Guardians. The first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies were directed by James Gunn, and there's no denying that he created two absolutely incredible films. However, after that, some offensive tweets posted by Gunn years ago emerged, and he was taken off the project. Now, we're not going to argue over whether or not this firing was justified. Gunn has apologized for his tweets and admitted they were in poor taste, and the decision has already been made. But this move had huge ramifications for the franchise, and many people wonder if the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie will ever get made. After all, we're in the end game now, and with the addition of Captain Marvel, and who knows what else coming down the Phase 4 pipeline, do we really need a third Guardians movie? Well, according to Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, the movie is still going to happen, although there's no release date in sight. But is it possible that the movie might be missing an important cast member? When the controversy surrounding James Gunn first started out, the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy signed a statement claiming they fully support Gunn. However, Dave Bautista, who plays Drax the Destroyer, took things a step further. Whether or not you agree with this termination, there's no doubt that James Gunn was someone who was passionate about his work, which is exactly what made the first two movies so great. He had a script all ready to go for the third movie, and Bautista believes it should still be used, regardless of who's chosen to direct it. Speaking about the situation, Bautista said that, while he doesn't defend the tweets, he believes Gunn is one of the kindest, most decent people he's ever met. He feels like not using Gunn's script would be a huge disservice to both Gunn and fans of the franchise. Bautista went as far as to assert that, if it's not used, he wants to be released from his contract, and not appear in the third movie altogether. Under the best of circumstances, this would be a huge cause for concern. The idea of having Drax recast is ridiculous, and so is the idea of someone else trying to play him at this point in time. But following the events of Avengers Infinity War, the situation feels all the more dire. Since it's been a while since the movie came out, let us remind you that Drax the Destroyer was one of the many characters who perished due to Thanos' finger snap of doom. His situation is particularly perilous right now, and considering the pandemonium in the MCU, it seems as though having him die during Avengers Endgame might be the only way to get around Bautista's refusal to continue with the Guardians franchise. A dead Drax, or a completely recast Drax, is a terrible choice, but it's one Marvel may have to make. And to look at the small, almost imperceptible silver lining of this situation, at least having Drax die in the fight against Thanos would be true to his character. Before Bautista was cast in the role of Drax the Destroyer, another famous actor was up for the part. Jason Momoa clearly isn't opposed to appearing in superhero movies, since he's now the face and perfectly ripped body of DC's Aquaman. But he turned down the part of Drax. Getting to play a hero in a Marvel movie seems like a surefire way to make a ton of money. While playing Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones made him a household name, he doesn't feel as though it accurately reflected his acting abilities. Put simply, he was tired of roles where his main objective is to walk around shirtless and deliver smaller pieces of dialogue. Although he didn't end up taking on the part of Drax the Destroyer, Momoa says he did have an awesome time auditioning with Chris Pratt. He also feels that Bautista is perfect for the part, and he couldn't have done any better himself. himself. Hopefully, we just get to see Bautista continue in the role he has done such a great job with thus far. If Guardians of the Galaxy continues to be a thing in the MCU and new female characters are added to the cast, it's possible that Drax's daughter Moondragon might show up someday. After all, Drax is a hugely popular character with no shortage of fans. Getting to see that daughter he's always been talking about and how far she's come would certainly be interesting. Of course, we can't quite sanction her father-killing antics, but we all know the movies don't have to follow the comic books exactly. What do you think about Drax the Destroyer? Would you like to see his human past and his daughter incorporated into the MCU, or do you think he's fine the way he is? Let us know down in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU content. Thanks for watching.